In my 9 years as a PA, my salary journey jumped from $90,000 and reached up to almost $180,000. If you watch this video, you're probably a pre-PA student or an existing PA student. As a PA, you can expect to make a pretty decent salary. And if you're starting your PA journey right now as a new grad, you should expect to have a much higher salary than I did, because I started my PA journey back in 2012, back in the old days when cost of living was much lower. Now, you might be thinking, wow, $180,000 is a lot of money, Sam. But that salary number, that really doesn't mean anything. The question you should be asking me is, how many hours did you actually work for that money? And how stressful was your job? Did you feel like you had enough support staff? And did you feel like you were well compensated in your role? Because remember, making $180,000 working 40 hours versus 100 hours a week is very different. And I've had coworkers who worked the exact same job as I did, and they made well over $220,000. Why? Well, because they took on overtime, nights, and holiday pay. But that really wasn't for me. I barely liked working a full-time job, even at 36 hours. So now let's break down how much money I actually made and how much I actually had to work for that money. Let's start with my first job, my first big girl job as a PA. I got a job at a private practice in Fairfield, Connecticut in outpatient internal medicine. I had a starting salary of $90,000 with full benefits. But I was originally offered $75,000 and I had to negotiate my way up to $90,000 as a new grad. Now, this was the best job and probably the most rewarding job of my career. I would say it was ultimately my dream job in medicine, but obviously back then, I didn't know that because it was my first job. In this job, I worked alongside two physicians and I was the first and only PA at that time. I worked the standard 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, with no calls, no weekends, and no night shifts. I also had an hour break every day for lunch, which is amazing. I saw 15 to 18 patients the entire day with 45-minute appointments for physicals and 15-minute appointments for sick visits. And that is really unheard of in medicine these days. Now, the best part of the job wasn't really the hours or the pay, it was my supervising physician. I had the most incredible supervising physician as a mentor, a friend, and a colleague. And my supervising physician forced me to focus on learning the foundation of medicine. He taught me to interact with patients, manage my workflow, and develop my confidence as a new grad. And in the time that we weren't working together directly with medicine, we spent our lunch breaks talking about our life, our weekends, and our goals. And my supervising physician was so incredibly nice that he actually invited me and my then boyfriend to his cabin in Vermont for the weekend. And it was really great getting to connect with him and his family. And he really treated me like family since I had no family in Connecticut at that time. And because of that bond and that relationship that we built, I felt like he really fostered me and mentored me to be a really confident PA. Now, in my first year at that job as a new grad, I made almost $100,000 because of the bonuses I got, the Christmas bonus and a little small bonus throughout the year. I should also mention with this job, I got amazing benefits. I got my phone bill and my internet bill paid because I was charting at home and I took calls at night. And let's be honest, it's primary care. There's no calls. I think I took maybe like 5 to 10 calls throughout the entire year. There's no real emergencies at that time. But nonetheless, they paid for my phone and my cable bill, which is really helpful. And I realized that they really value my work-life balance and they were paying me even though I was on a salary. Now, as you can tell, my stress level here was really, really low. I would say about a 2 out of 10. And the only reason I experienced any stress because there was a huge learning curve as a new grad. And I stayed in this job for 2 years, probably the happiest 2 years of my entire career. But I only left because my boyfriend, husband now, Dimitri, he was starting school in San Francisco and we decided to leave Connecticut and go back west. Now, with that said, if you want to learn how to write an enticing resume to land that dream job, you can download my resume writing guide. I'll give you a quick breakdown of what you should and should not include in your resume to market yourself as a confident PA and not just a new grad PA. Now on to my second job. So now we relocated to San Francisco in California, my favorite place. I took another job in private practice, this time in a primary care / urgent care facility. There I had a salary of $130,000 with full benefits. Now keep in mind that a bump from $90,000 salary to $130,000 might seem like a big jump, but this is California. Cost of living in San Francisco is extremely high. ridiculously high. So I knew back then that I could not settle for a job under $120,000. So when I moved there, it took about 3 months for me to interview and find a job. I interviewed at 12 different institutions and I got 11 job offers, and I negotiated every single one of them. And I took the 11th job because at this point I knew what a good job looked like. I knew all the red flags that I can identify a bad supervising physician. So I was very selective. And in this clinic, I was employed by 3 physicians and I worked alongside 2 other additional PAs. I worked 4 days a week, great work-life balance. I worked 12 to 9 and I had 1.5 hours for admin time and I had an hour lunch. An hour lunch. And this means I had 2.5 hours a day where I did not see any patients. And at this job, I also had no calls and I only worked 1 Saturday clinic per month. So half my days I was treating primary care patients from 12 to 4, and from 4 to 9 p.m. it was mostly the quick care facility. And in this quick care facility, I ran the entire clinic alone by myself autonomously with the help of 2 additional MAs. And the best part of this job was my patient population. They're mostly young and healthy adults. So you can see this job was really, really chill, even more chill than my first job. I even took naps in my car during my break and had a long ass break. And my employer, they were so supportive that they allowed me to nap in my office when I was fully pregnant. So it was a very supportive and loving environment. So with this job, my salary initially started around $130,000, but it increased about $140,000 when I started working more hours. I picked up an overtime shift because I wanted more money. At this point, I want to pay off my student loan debt, but as it turns out, this actually caused me to burn out a lot quicker because I felt like I never had enough time for myself to do things I wanted, and I was just working, and that didn't work for me at all. Luckily, in this job, I got multiple raises, which really helped increase my overall salary. And during this time, I was going through a lot of major life changes. I got married, I went on a honeymoon, and I negotiated 6 weeks off for my honeymoon. 4 weeks were paid and 2 weeks were unpaid, which is really, really great. And to make matters even better, I actually took 10 weeks off of that year when I got married because I had to attend another international wedding. And during one of those years when I got pregnant, I actually took a long break from my pregnancy, 6 months in total, 6 months. And I looked at my pay stubs and I actually earned $85,000. It's pretty wild. I didn't even do the calculation until now. And so as you can see, this job was incredibly chill, it was very easy. My employers accommodated me really well. I felt well compensated, I felt supported, and my stress level was probably a 2 out of 10, nothing higher. And I stayed at this job for almost 4 years. And at that time, Dimitri and I left San Francisco after the birth of our first child because we really wanted to be closer to home. And now on to job number 3. And here we're at in year 6. In year 6, we moved to Las Vegas, which is home for me. My family's there, I want to settle and raise my kids in Las Vegas. And I accepted a job working for a large healthcare corporation in a high acuity urgent care. So this is the ultimate corporate job, a high paying job with amazing benefits, but ultimately for me, it was a job with the lowest job satisfaction. Now I earned a base pay of $120,000 with a productivity bonus. Keep in mind that $120,000 base pay for Las Vegas was actually below market pay, meaning this wasn't a very competitive offer. But I was told by the recruiter, the hiring manager, everybody that I would have this extra cushion from the bonus structure, anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 in addition to my base pay. So I thought, okay, let's try this out. Now, considering Las Vegas had a much lower cost of living than San Francisco, I wasn't expecting to earn $130,000 or $140,000. But surprisingly, I did. In my urgent care job in Las Vegas, I earned roughly like $150,000 to $170,000, $80,000 annually. Now, before accepting this job, I negotiated a $30,000 sign-on bonus and a relocation bonus. This $30,000 is a huge deal because it really allowed me to pay off my student loan debt a lot faster. I paid off $150,000 in student loan debt in under 4.5 years by myself because of this big chunk of money. So I really needed this money to pay off my debt. Now, with this job, I actually worked a lot more overtime than I would have wanted to. I'm not a fan of overtime, but this clinic was constantly short-staffed all the time, like religiously. And we were asked to pick up these extra shifts, which I did because back then I was pregnant with my second kid and I wanted more money, and there's a lot of things that happened that I was just money. So I did. But at some point, overtime was actually mandatory. Yeah, mandatory. I didn't even know that was possible, but it turns out with corporate, everything is possible. This was a very high paying job, but the stress level was extremely high as well. Patients were much sicker, the demand was higher, we had a full radiology department, so I was able to order CAT scans, MRIs, x-rays, and ultrasound. We also offered IVs, injections, and procedures that were usually only offered in the ER. But because we were high acuity urgent care, like a mini ER, we functioned like a mini ER. And I should mention also that with this job, I got in trouble with the medical board for the very first time in my life. It wasn't malpractice or anything crazy like that. It was paperwork. I got in trouble for practicing in medicine without signing the appropriate paperwork that was required by the Nevada Board of Pharmacy. Anyways, back to the job. So this company offered amazing benefits, like I said, which is why I took the job to begin with. I was blinded by money and benefits. It really had nothing to do with my love for urgent care or the incredible supervising physician or the amazing support staff. No, none of that. I took this job because of the higher income, the better benefits, the better working hours, and the $30,000 sign-on bonus. Because now my priorities were different. I was no longer trying to establish myself as a confident PA. At this point, I was focusing on paying my student loan debt, financial independence journey, providing for my kids. I had 2 babies now and a husband, so it was a very different life. But I was still negotiating. So I was negotiating a working schedule, so I didn't have a rotating schedule. I was able to work 3 12-hour shifts once a week at the same clinic. That was like 15 minutes from my house. Unlike the other providers in the clinic, they had to rotate with different clinics and work a lot of overnight shift. I didn't have any of that. But still, my level was really high in terms of stress. I would say probably 9 out of 10. So because high acuity, high stress, high turnover rate, everything was high. And at this point, I had 2 kids. I was working way too much. I was doing a lot. Now, if you're comfortable, drop a comment below about the salaries you are seeing today in your location and your specialty within your years of experience. Because I really want to promote pay transparency and make sure that we all are being fairly compensated for our hard work. And this is really our way of building community and helping each other advocate for our worth. So again, drop your salaries below and let me know because I want to know more. Now that you learned how much money I made in my career, I want to share with you how medicine broke me. Mentally, physically, and emotionally. Watch this video here where I talk about how money truly affected my career and how I lost sight of what I love, what medicine really meant to me when I was focusing on all the wrong things. So I really want to prevent you from making some of the mistakes that I made and having some of the really bad money mindset and habits within my career. Now, with that said, if you found this content helpful, please subscribe below and let me know all about your PA journey, what you're going through, and I would love to hear from you. Until then, I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.